All right, here we go in three, two, one.
What is up, y'all? Welcome back to the Vol Talk podcast. That's Austin, and I am Blake, and we are two brothers who love talking about the Vols. We are back with you with the Kentucky Wildcats preview. Tennessee Volunteers versus the Kentucky Wildcats coming up this week, this Saturday. We took some time off. We had a big win against Alabama, and man, that felt good. And then we had a bye week, and that also felt good, not having to stress over a weekend, right, Austin? But now it's back to football time, and we're playing that blue team from up north.
Yeah, man, it is. I mean, I always love watching the Vols on Saturday, but it is nice just to be able to enjoy some football without having to stress about our game, judging all the other teams like Ohio State struggling against Nebraska, and then LSU getting dominated by A&M in the second half. It was an interesting day. Yeah, exactly. From a comeback, they're down by 10 at half. And then, yeah, I mean, there were some solid games, but I am happy that the Vols are back on the docket this weekend against Kentucky. Big game for us, not so big game for them. I mean, except for Mark Stoops' job. Basically Mark Stoops' job is on the line this season. I mean, they've been terrible, dude. That's really the headline going into the game on the Kentucky side is that after they upset Ole Miss on the road, dude, it is all downhill from there. And I'm sure Wildcat fans know that. Been a massively disappointing season for them. They started off terrible in SEC play, getting blown out by South Carolina. Then they played Georgia tough. They beat Ole Miss, and they've looked really bad since then. Now, BVS tells me that, they played the competition, and the better teams, they're going to be playing harder and probably come out and fight in this game. Could happen. I mean, on paper, we should really dominate them, but as a Tennessee fan, you can never count on that. So,
Yeah, that's just the nature of the beast until we get this dynasty rolling, right? We're gonna feel insecure. I mean, really, just especially with this, loss to Arkansas kind of looming over us, right? It's like, man, what could have been? Could have been a perfect season so far, and just obviously we're been playing sloppy the past few weeks, so that feeling is always there. And Kentucky, they look up to us, right? And so they always play us tough because we're Tennessee. They see us as a rival, I guess.
they try to play us tough, but last time they were in Neyland, they lost 44-6.
They got spanked pretty hard. They got spooked by old Spooky Rocky Top. And so we got them back in Knoxville this weekend, so that's going to be good. Hopefully it's another night game. 7:45 kickoff. And so that's going to be, hopefully we maybe break out a little. It's going to be like the day after. No, not the day after. A couple days after Halloween.
Yeah, 2 days after.
Yeah, maybe we can still break out Spooky Rocky Top or something. But yeah, man, it's so, we're coming off this Alabama week, right? We're coming off a bye week again. And so, the question that is still kind of lingering, right, is like that second half of the Alabama game, the offense seemed to wake up a little bit. In particular, Nico Iamaleava seemed to wake up a little bit.
Butchered,
right?
but you attempted it.
Did I? No, I didn't butcher it. Iamaleava. I think that's how it is. I know it's like 4 syllables. Okay. So the question becomes, because here's the deal. We went into Arkansas flat, and that was after a bye week, right? So, and we kind of, I don't want to say we jinxed us, but on this podcast we talked about, hey, this bye week could be really good, because it could be this extra time to prepare and all this, or it could be bad because we could come out flat and not be playing at our best. Now, that was on the road, so I think it's good that this is at home, right, coming out of a bye week. But I guess my question is, what do you expect to see? What do you want to see out of this offense in particular, coming out of this bye week, coming out of this big win against Alabama? I mean, what does that look like?
So, I mean, we talked about in the Alabama review about this exploding well, this team that has potential, who's been good in the past offensively and is ready to explode. They started to explode in the second half of that Alabama game, and like to your point, can they continue that explosion? Can they continue to play well? Kentucky's defense has really been the strength of their team this year. Now they looked really bad against Auburn, especially run defensive wise. They were terrible against the run against Auburn, and it does feel like we can run the ball on most teams. It's been slow to start. As we know, we haven't scored a point in the first half in the last 3 games. Let's hopefully that streak ends. Like that little trick that Heupel and the offense are doing on us. Don't want that to happen against Kentucky. But yeah, dude. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see if they can carry that momentum from the second half of the Alabama game. And your point about the bye week is an interesting one because it's like, is it more so the road game against Arkansas, or is it more so the bye week, or a combination of both? We'll see. And yeah, I think really the offense won't have to do much in this game. I mean, if you look at Kentucky offensively, they've averaged like 13 and a half points in the SEC play on offense, which is not good. And obviously our offense has been bad, but it hasn't been that inept. Plus, it's just a matchup problem. You look at the worst part of Kentucky, it's their offense. It's their pass game. They basically do not have a pass game. And then you look at the strengths of our team, and you look at the defense, and you say, okay, this Tennessee defense has been absolutely phenomenal. They haven't given up 20 points all season long against really good offenses. I don't know if you're looking at what Arkansas is doing, man. We did not play well in that Arkansas game, but they are torching teams. They just torch Mississippi State. Now Mississippi State's it's terrible,
Bad.
but the point is that even against good offenses like Alabama has a good offense. We have shut them down defensively, at least scoring wise, because we've pointed out many times on the show that a lot of times it's bend but don't break. That's just part of the DNA of the defense. I mean, they just find ways to make plays when it counts the most in the red zone, like way backed up. So I expect more of that. I would be flabbergasted if this Kentucky offense, who has literally not scored over 20 points, except for they scored 20 against Ole Miss, and that's the only SEC team they've scored 20 on. I would be absolutely floored if they find a way to do that against our offense. It wouldn't make any sense. I mean, it would just be a complete outlier on the season. At this point, we're 7 games into the year. We know a lot about both teams, obviously. Like, it's not like it's small sample sizes. We're dealing with pretty decent sample sizes at this point, and I would be shocked if somehow their offense just comes alive. So, for us offensively, going back to your original question, we just have to, can you give me 21 points? I think you probably can give me 21 at home against Kentucky, and I think that would be enough to win, frankly.
Yeah, surely we can expect a trio of touchdowns from this offense, right, against Kentucky. And to your point, their defense, playing decent, but at the end of the day, I don't think they're going to be able to match up, especially that run defense. Like you said, was looking a little shaky, and that's obviously our strength. At least currently, right? Again, let's see if Nico really has turned that leaf. And this passing attack has really turned that over and turned a new leaf is the phrase I'm looking for. So we'll see. But another thing, man, that I expect, okay, so we've talked a lot about Josh Heupel, right? And Josh Heupel has been able to beat Alabama. He's beat Nick Saban. He's beat Kalen DeBozo now, right? He's won big games. He struggles on the road, but at the end of the day, he's now 17-1 at home in Neyland, whereas Mark Stoops is kind of on a little shaky ground, right? He's fighting for his job, and the reason being is because Mark Stoops has made some questionable decisions. I mean, frankly, I felt as though I watched a little bit of that Kentucky-Georgia game, and I felt as though they lost that game because of the coaching. I think they were in a position to win, and I think Mark Stoops made the wrong decisions, and that's why they lost. Not going, being too conservative, not going for it on 4th and short, in Georgia territory, when you had the momentum, you're running, these different things. And so that's, another factor that I think is going to play into this game is, hey, our offense, should be able to score a few touchdowns. Our defense is going to play well enough, right? To your point that, I mean, between Kentucky not being that great offensively and our defense being generational, we should be able to hold them pretty low. And like you said, I mean, shoot, if you score 21 points, you're probably winning the game. But again, at the end of the day, I think also this coaching is a mismatch.
Yeah, that's fair. I do think it is a coaching mismatch. Stoops is terrible, and I think Kentucky fans realize that at this point. A&M dodged an absolute bullet. I don't know exactly all the ins and outs of how it went down, but from my understanding, Stoops accepted the A&M job and backed out last minute, and they got Mike Elko. Oh my lord, dude! They'd probably be 3-4 right now. Instead, A&M's fighting for a playoff spot. So yeah, I do think that there is a coaching mismatch. Now, Heupel hasn't been the best in managing games in certain situations either, especially at the end of the Arkansas game. But I think overall we do have the better coach. And I mean, that's another thing. Like when it comes down to it, we are a better football team than Kentucky. We have more talent than Kentucky. Now, one mismatch I think that goes in their favor. The strength of their team is probably their defensive line and their pass rush in particular. So we have struggled.
We've been pretty poor in that department.
Exactly, we have struggled pass blocking. So we're going to need the tackles to continue to get better. I mean, I think they showed some improvement, especially in the second half of the Alabama game. But I think mostly what came down to in the second half of the Alabama game is Nico started to be special. And that is what we want to see more of. Because we always have, throughout this entire season of this show and this season of the 2024 Vols, no one has questioned Nico's special potential. He can make every play on the field. He is one of the most athletic players on the field at any given time, and having that at the quarterback position is so valuable. I mean, you have a 6'6" guy who can make guys miss in the open field as a runner. He can make any throw on the football field. He has shown special. He was special in the second half of the Alabama game. There's no question about that. I 100% believe without Nico in the second half of that Alabama game, we do not win the football game. We do not. He was the spark in the offense. Now, the receivers made plays, okay? There was some great plays by the receivers, and they've really been playing well all year because we've seen they were open in the first half of that Alabama game. There were several times they got behind the defense, and Nico just missed them. At the end of the day, dude, we're going to have to see Nico continue to be special and consistently be special. Because if he's not, this team has a very low ceiling. But if Nico is special, this team has no ceiling. The ceiling is a national championship because that's how good this defense is. That's how good our running game is, and Dylan Sampson is. Nico just has to be that guy who he is. He is that guy. He just has to consistently do that. And I don't care if we win or lose this game. I mean, I do, but what my point I'm making is I would love to win. That's number one priority, but I also want to see Nico continue developing, continue that path of, okay, he is that guy. He's going to make the big-time throws when we need him to make the big-time throws. And I want him to light Kentucky up because it'll give me more confidence going down the rest of the season that, hey, he's getting better. Okay, I just want to see him get better because, I mean, he is still young. We've made that point, but we've also made the point that if he doesn't get better quickly, this season is a wash. And it can completely change the trajectory of the program. And I can prove that by telling you how many guys committed after the Alabama game, dude. Like, people think, oh, well, he's young. Just let him develop. Just let him continue developing. It's okay. He'll be better next season. No, you can't do that because that Alabama game just helped us not just this season. It helped us in the future. That's what people don't understand. If you have a bad season this season, it doesn't just hurt you this season. It hurts you going forward. So getting that win was massive, and we get that win with Nico. So we need Nico to continue to develop, continue to show more consistency, and really be like reach that potential that we know he has.
Yeah, and you made a lot of great points, right? And we've been talking about this for a month now, really since since the offense started to sputter. And like we've mentioned before, really we kind of saw glimpses of the sputter against NC State, but especially since the Oklahoma game, the offense has started to sputter, and so it's been this question, for over a month now. We've been asking, hey, how is Nico going to be able to turn this page and start to develop and kind of have that, kind of light bulb moment or whatever the case may be? Because you're absolutely right. We've, and you made it perfectly, so I'm not going to rehash it too much. But it's just like, we're not we're not saying that he's not still young. The point is we just don't really have time for him. The game is not like it used to be in this age of transfer portal and NIL, and the fact that there have been plenty of true freshmen as well as plenty of sophomores slash shirt freshmen, 19-year-olds who have been able to make great plays, who have been able to lead their teams to really great seasons. We excuse me, to your point, we need Nico to be that guy and make those plays. So that, I mean, because look at the SEC this year, bro. I mean, let's talk about this. I mean, the SEC is just an absolute dog eat dog world right now. I
It's
mean,
brutal, man.
it is
I think it's the
brutal.
deepest the conference has ever been. It is by far the deepest the conference has ever been. There are so many good teams. I mean, you could really run. You could throw Oregon into the SEC and just run the college football playoff like that. I think that would be better. If you threw the Oregon Ducks into the SEC and just said, okay, this is the college football playoff, I think everybody would be fine with that, dude. I think everybody would be fine with that. Clemson's okay, but when you saw them run up against Georgia and it just wasn't competitive, and I know it was the first game of the season, but at the end of the day, I just don't think it. I think Oregon is the only team I've seen outside of the footprint that is even going to come close to competing. I mean, it's just, like you said, dude, it is just doggy. Like anyone can win any week. Like you see an LSU A&M matchup, they play that game 10 times. It's probably split 5-5. And it's open right now. That's the thing. It is open, but it's gonna be brutal, man. Like how many teams are gonna finish with 10 wins? We have no idea. So really, we can't even bank on that. We it would be great if we could somehow upset Georgia in a couple weeks. That would be great. It's going to be tough because they probably the best team in the country, frankly. If they don't have that one blip against Alabama in the first half, they're easily the best team in the country. But I mean, it's we can't bank on, okay, 10 wins is going to be enough, especially if we go out and get blasted by Georgia. We need to have some convincing wins on it, because at the end of the day, that's what they're going to be debating come playoff time. They're going to be debating, okay, who did you beat, and how have you looked in your losses, and how have you looked in your wins? Did you struggle against Kentucky in week 9? Or whatever it is, week 10, week 9 or 10? Did you struggle? Did you win by a touchdown or two? Dude, I'm telling you, that's going to come into play. Because to your point, we have teams in the SEC, many teams that could get double-digit wins this season. Many
100%.
good teams.
100%. And it's very telling that the kind of the floor that we're talking about is 10 wins, right? It's like,
Exactly.
hey, it's like, man, because I mean, look at these. First of all, no one is you know, everyone's got a loss at this point, right? I think
Yeah.
I think that's right. I don't
Yeah.
think any
In the SEC,
SEC team
yes.
is undefeated, and so everyone's got at least one loss. So now it's like, who can run the table? And these teams do, like, everyone is like, it doesn't matter whose schedule you look at. It's like, I mean, you look at our schedule. We've got Georgia. You look at A&M, LSU. Texas's schedule. Everyone's got, even Alabama, right? Alabama thinks that they're still up in there. And so everyone, just because of the nature of the SEC, exactly like you said, it's like, hey, first of all, these teams are just hoping to stay at 10-2, to come in at 10-2, and then exactly like you said, it's going to come down to the nature of the wins and losses. And so going back to our original point, Nico is going to he is the factor at this point. Putting aside the offensive line, right, and the tackles, freaking Lance Hurd, John Campbell, please continue to get better, right? Please just play good football. You're making $1 million, Lance Hurd. We just ask that you play some decent football. That's it. But
it's a lot of money, man. It's a lot of money to play tackle.
It's a lot of money to play tackle and be dog crap. The point is like, ultimately the defense is clicking. We didn't miss a beat with Peleau. I mean, he's missed, but we didn't miss a beat, right? The secondary is not what they thought we thought they were. We were talking about them being hot and ready at the beginning of the season. Please just be hot and ready. Well,
they are good at this point.
They're just looking hot.
They're okay.
Good. They're hot, and so the D-line, we know the D-line, the run game is there. The receivers are getting open. The receivers are making catches. Brazel's got his quarterbacks
comes
back.
Down to the quarterback,
man. It comes down to the quarterback just being the guy and making. And again, at this point, we're not even necessarily asking Nico to be a superstar.
We don't need that. We just need consistency.
We don't need that. We just need. We talked about that in the Alabama review. Is like just consistency, making plays so that we can win these games and win them convincingly, and even have a shot against Georgia. Play Georgia at least close. I would love to beat Georgia. I think if we win out, we're good.
Yeah, that's. I mean, we could go to the SEC champion. We're still possibly playing for an SEC championship game appearance. But when we're talking about playoff scenarios at the end of the year, you would much rather put more good games on your resume, more blowouts on your resume than not. Because we don't just have to worry about the SEC teams we're competing with. We're also competing with one-loss Big 12 teams, one-loss ACC. And listen, I get it. I agree. Everyone's thinking right now who's watching this, we would dominate those schedules. I agree. We would be 12-0. Okay, we would win the conference with ease. But listen, I promise you there's going to be debates at the end of the season with these 2-loss, 1-loss, Big 12 teams, ACC teams, and even Big 10 teams at this point. You have Indiana undefeated right now.
I was just about to say Indiana, man, because if Indiana comes in at the end of the season with 1 loss, they're going to be the darlings. They're going to get in.
Exactly. That's exactly right, dude. That's 100% correct. And there's a scenario right now where if Penn State wins out, Oregon, and I know we're getting outside of our deal here, but if Penn State wins out, Oregon wins out, they're going to play in the Big Ten championship. If Indiana just has 1 loss to Ohio State, dude, then you're looking at 1-loss Indiana, whose only loss is to Ohio State, didn't get a chance to play in their championship game, and I think at that point Ohio State would just have Ohio State would have 3 losses at that point, so they would be out, but. They would just have 2 because it would just be Penn State and Oregon. So, and like at the end of the day, they're probably going to want to put 10-2 Ohio State in. So the point is, Tennessee can't do a Florida. Like, okay, because we were more talented than Florida. Now, as a fan base, at the end of the day, when we're beating Florida, your first thought isn't, okay, this is playoff implications. Your first thought is, F Florida, we beat Florida, let's go.
Thank God. Yeah.
Exactly, let's go. We beat Florida because we hate Florida. And that's the same thing with Alabama. But at the end of the day, from here on out, there's not like a team, except maybe outside of Georgia, that I feel that way about. At this point, it's like, okay, I want to win the game. That's 100% true. But I want to kill these teams, and I'm not going to be happy with, we squeak one out against Kentucky, because I know as a fan, because I can do this as a fan, I'm not on the team. I'm not coaching the team. I'm not playing for the team. And that's a good thing, because I would be horrible. But as a fan, I'm sitting here thinking in my head, it's like, golly, we just squeaked one out against Kentucky? Like, that might matter at the end of the day. So, And time back our other analysis, in order for us to blow out Kentucky, okay, they're going to put up. I'll give you my score prediction at the end, but they're not going to put up a lot of points, man. They're horrible on offense, terrible, and we have a really good defense. So it's like one of those matchups that just doesn't. It's not a good recipe for Kentucky to have success on offense this week, especially their pass protection. Their pass protection has been horrendous in SEC play. And by the way, we're really good rushing the passer. So that is a mismatch. But in order for us to have the performance that I believe we need right now, okay, with how tight these conferences are and how many teams are at the top, we need to blow out Kentucky. And the only way we're going to do that is if Nico, okay, plays like Nico can play. He has to play well, and he has to be consistently good. And that's the only way we're going to reach our full potential as a team. That's the only way. Because, dude, it's not just this team that relies on the quarterback position. That's the name of the game in football. Okay, you have to have an elite quarterback to have an elite football team. That's the reality. And a lot of people questioned, going back to last year, a lot of people questioned J.J. McCarthy for Michigan last year, okay, and said, hey, this guy is an elite quarterback. Well, I would agree he wasn't the best quarterback in college football, but at the end of the day, he went top 12 of the draft, and he, when he left, Michigan's offense is completely inept now. They literally can do nothing. So even that team, who was very run-game oriented and defensive oriented, had a guy at the QB position that is a difference maker. Okay, and we're going to need that from our quarterback if we're going to reach where this team can go, which is what I believe is can beat anyone in college football if Nico plays at his best.
Absolutely, and make a run in the playoffs and make some noise, right? And before we get too far, I just want to make the point, exactly like you're saying, about these, this resume that we need to build, right? It's like if you think about it this way, right? The playoff committee looking at us, looking at Georgia, looking at Texas, whoever, Kentucky barely lost to Georgia, right? If we can blow out Kentucky, or have a really solid win, and then we can go into Vanderbilt and really have a solid win against Vanderbilt, who is not going to be a pushover team, by the way, right?
No.
Then all of a sudden, because Texas only beat Texas had to outlast Vandy, and only, won by less than a touchdown, and so. Again, it's even though these teams outside of Georgia on our resume are not that good for our resume, again, when you're trying to compare us to Georgia, and especially if we lose close to Georgia, right? It's like, okay, we lost close to Georgia, but we blew out Kentucky, who almost beat Georgia, and it's like, and we're at home or we're away for Georgia, right? So all these things can come into play, and so it's just absolutely critical that we just get some consistency, man. Get some consistency.
Offensively, yes.
Offensively, right? Offensively, and from Nico. And so, that's ultimately at the end of the day, that is, in terms of my preview for this Kentucky game, what I expect to see. Great defense, like you said. I don't expect Kentucky to score a lot of points. And then what I want to see is this offense showing that, yes, this is we have turned the page. We are on an upward trajectory from here for this season. And Josh Heupel, I hope these players are hearing it, because Josh Heupel keeps harping on, hey, good teams get better, right? Is this team getting better? Because we're going to have to continue to get better, especially the offense, in order to make the run that we want to make.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said. I have made this point several times on this podcast, and I will continue to make the point because I truly believe it. Your performance matters, and it matters, in my opinion, more than ever when we're talking, especially this year where it feels like a lot of teams are solid. There's a lot of teams that could potentially get into that playoff. And so your performance matters, dude. And your performance matters this week. It matters for a couple of reasons. I think the number one reason is that we need to see that this team is, to your point, getting better and can continue to compete with not just solid, because we beat Alabama, but I already talked to you how I don't think Alabama's a very good football team. So we need to show that we can beat teams that are actually good. Because we shouldn't just, I get in our heads, we're playing through the scenario. We're like, okay, beat Kentucky, beat Mississippi State, beat UTEP, beat Vanderbilt. Every Vol fan has done that. But at the end of the day, the team's not thinking that way. And even as a fan base, if we want to ultimately get to our goal, which is SEC championships and national championships, you're going to have to beat Georgia. Now, I get it. It's on the road. I understand that. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to beat them at some point, whether it's on the road in Sanford Stadium or it's in the playoffs on a neutral site. So why not do it sooner rather than later? But we just want to see, is this team, like you said, getting better, and can this team continue to compete with like actual good teams? Kentucky's not going to be that test, but if you go out and you do what you should do, which is hold Kentucky to very little points, okay, defensively, and you kind of have the first offensive explosion of the year. I wouldn't even count that NC State game as an offensive explosion, especially since they're an ACC team. And I'm talking about in SEC play, we have not had an offensive explosion. We have not thrown up a 40 burger or a 50 burger on a team yet. And man, it would be nice if we could see that this week, because not only is it's always nice to put little brother in his place, but it's also nice because it tells me this team is getting better, and it's truly one of the top teams in college football this season.
Absolutely. That's what we're hoping for. Man, it's just about getting the job done. It's back to business. Had a bye week. Get the job done. Keep going. And you're absolutely right. You just absolutely freaking stomp and march your way through the rest of the schedule until we get to freaking Athens. And man, it's not. Look, just like we gave Kent State some fodder, some locker room material. I'll go ahead and give Georgia some locker room material. Between the hedges is not anything special. I mean, we've won there before, okay? So why not take care of business? So, but at the end of the day, you gotta improve up until that game. And these are the games to do it against Kentucky and Mississippi State and all this. These are the games to do it. So.
And since we're talking about scenarios, and you brought up Vanderbilt earlier, because people just keep on chalking the rest of the schedule outside of Georgia up to wins. Vanderbilt, okay, and the team's not looking ahead, but again, all Vol fans are. This is we're not scheming up the game. We're gonna leave that up to Heupel, okay? We're gonna leave that up to Heupel and the coaching staff. But as a fan, I'm thinking, okay, these are the games left on the schedule. Vanderbilt, bro, I don't care. That game's going to be a tough game. That game's going into the fourth quarter. That team is, listen, they are not talented, okay? I'll say it. And that might hurt some Vanderbilt fans' feelings. But the makeup of that team is so special, dude. If you put that makeup of that team on any other team in the top 10, they would go undefeated.
Exactly.
Vanderbilt goes into every single game thinking they're going to win. They literally have that. They're like, we are a team full of 2 stars, but we are better than Texas. We are better than Alabama. I mean, they really believe that, dude. I've never seen anything like it. The confidence boost that they got from beating Alabama, I have literally never seen anything like that. So I don't care what their record is going into that Tennessee game. The culture in that building, that is going to be a close game. That's going to be a dogfight. So we really, I mean, yeah, we can say, oh, we can afford to lose to Georgia, but I don't know if we can. You don't want to go into that Vanderbilt week with how close everything right now is in college football. Plus, you have this absolute beast of a Vanderbilt team, which is insane to say, not talent-wise, but heart-wise. And it's like, dude, do you really want to rely on beating Vanderbilt in that kind of scenario to possibly get into the college football playoff?
Well,
it's gonna be
absolutely
tough,
not. Absolutely not, because I mean, if you, who else is Vanderbilt going to get up for if not Tennessee?
Exactly.
I mean,
it's their biggest rival. It's their biggest rival.
The in-state rival, and so you're absolutely right, man. And so what I would like to see from our Tennessee team, starting with this Kentucky game, is hey, why don't you take a lesson from Vanderbilt's team, and come out and play scrappy, play like you're out there and you want to win, and that you expect to win, and build that culture that Vanderbilt has. Because you're absolutely right, man. It's going to take that, and that's what we've been talking about. And I'm not going to harp on this too much, but that's what we've been talking about throughout the season, right? It's like, what is the culture? What are you? Do you love winning, and do you hate losing? And Vanderbilt right now, they sure love winning, and they've been losing some heartbreakers, some close games. But you're absolutely right, dude. That Vanderbilt game. I'm no longer, I'm not gonna
You
sit here and
cannot
say that
sleep on Vandy, dude.
Vanderbilt's gonna be an easy game. So,
You just can't
so
do it.
at the end of the day, we gotta take care of business this weekend against the Wildcats and get the job done and get it done well. So,
Oh, and by the way, Kentucky fans, because listen, it is bullying to a certain extent because Josh Heupel has not lost to Mark Stoops. I mean, he just completely owns Mark Stoops. But Kentucky is another team that lost to Vanderbilt. By the way, I'll just throw that out there, and they know that already as Kentucky fans. So yes, Kentucky fans, we are much more worried about the Commodores than you, and that should tell you something about how your season's going.
That's a fact, Jack. So, with that being said, we'll roll right into the predictions. Before we do that, y'all, before we drop our predictions, please, if you watched the video all the way up until this point or listen to the podcast, please drop us a like, drop us a comment. It really helps us, kind of get that algorithm going. And subscribe. We're at 29 subscribers, so love to hit
Pushing
that 30
30,
mark.
baby. Pushing 30.
We're a growing operation over here, so go ahead and drop us a subscription, turn on the notification bell, and drop us a follow on Spotify too. Again, Spotify will help you just listen to the audio. If you're not able to watch the video on YouTube, just follow us on Spotify, and you can listen in the car. And also, you know what? Shout out to the Twitter account because Austin's been throwing down some bangers on the Twitter account. Okay,
I need to be more consistent with it, but we'll see.
So, man, drop us a follow on that Twitter account too. You'll get the hottest of takes from Austin over
Oh,
there.
no hot takes so far, brother.
Okay, all right. So let's roll into the prediction.
They're cold takes, bro. Cold takes.
Yeah, cold takes. Cold takes. Drop us a follow, y'all. We appreciate it. We appreciate the support. Oh, and also, real quick, shout out to my boy Trevor Dodson, and he's the Arkansas fan. He's my buddy from Arkansas. He's from Fayetteville, actually. Shout out to his wife, Allison, who helped me learn that I need to not wear a off-white hoodie with an off-white background. It doesn't blend well. So thank you for that tip, Allison, and thanks for passing along the word, Trevor. Okay, without further ado, prediction time. So you said that you think we just need to score 21. You said you don't think Kentucky is going to score very many points. So what are you actually thinking? Where do you think it's going to land?
Okay, so I'm not a historical guy. I think any games beyond this season have not mattered and will not matter. But have to bring up last time they're in Neyland, they got absolutely annihilated. That's a team that really thought they were going to come in and beat Tennessee and Neyland. That was when we were undefeated. They had a lot better football team then. They got absolutely destroyed. There's an even bigger talent gap this year. There really is, and that's not comparing 2022 Tennessee to this team. I think 2022 Tennessee has shown they are better at this point. But the talent gap between Tennessee and Kentucky is much more vast this season. Much more vast, in my opinion. I do not think they're going to score a point. I'm going with, let's see here. How many will we score? I'm going to say 31-0.
31-0. We're going to skunk them. Goose egg.
I think they're getting skunked in Neyland, man. I really do.
Dang.
I do not think they're going to score. Our defense is elite, and this is the worst offense we've played all year. I don't know if it compares with Kent State or not. That's probably a tough competition at this point. You probably lean Kent State slightly, but Kentucky, the fact that I'm comparing Kentucky's offense to Kent State's offense should tell you all you need to know. They're not scoring a damn point in Neyland. 31-0.
I love it, dude. I love it. I hope I'm optimistic, and I hope that your prediction is correct. I'm a little less optimistic. Okay, I think they're going to come out, and they're going to come out hot. I think they're going to want to win. I think they're going to want to be playing like they have against this other competition, like you mentioned, against your Georgias and your Ole Misses, and they're going to come out, and I think they're going to be hyped up. And so I think they're going to drop 10 in the first half. I think we're finally going to score in the first
Not a
half,
chance.
but it's not going to be many. So I think we're going to drop 14 in the first half. So I think it's going to be 14-10 going to the second half. But then I think as we go through that second quarter, and especially as we come out in the third quarter, and again, like you said, that talent gap is realized, and especially the depth. And the fact that this Tennessee team just is, props to Heupel. This team can play all the way through the end of the game.
No
And
question.
I think that's going to become apparent. I think the offense will open up, and the defense will lock down Kentucky for the rest of the game. And I think the final score will be 30-10.
Okay. I like that prediction. I really like your analysis there, dude. I mean, that's one thing Heupel deserves a lot of credit for. This has been a second half football team. They get better as the game goes. I think the only complaint I would have in the second half of this year would be that fourth quarter of that Arkansas game where it just looked like we were gassed in that. And I really don't blame the defense at that point because the offense was just letting them down time and time again. But yeah, I like it, man. 30-10. That's decent. But they ain't gonna score, bro. They definitely ain't scoring in the first half. Are you
Dude,
kidding me?
dude,
Kentucky's horrible, dude. I'm telling you, they are not a good football team, and
okay.
our defense is elite. So we'll see.
I hear that. I hear that. Looking forward to a blowout in Neyland. That's what we need. That's what we talked about all night tonight on this podcast is we need a big win. So let's hope for that. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Vol Talk. Again, this was a preview of Tennessee Volunteers versus Kentucky Wildcats in Neyland coming up this Saturday. So thanks for joining us. Please like the video, comment, and we will see you next week on Monday at 10 a.m. for the Kentucky review. Hopefully we'll be celebrating a big win against the Kentucky Wildcats, and then we'll just keep trucking through this season, baby. Playoff bound, hopefully. So thank you all so much. We'll see you all in the next episode.
GBO.